Hey, it's Dr. Phil. You're listening to the Crisco Kidd Block Party.
Time for another stay-at-home convo, and I am sitting across the screen from one of the world's most favorite doctors. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Phil, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thanks for having me. You kidding me? I'm glad to be here.
Look, first of all, happy belated birthday. I know just a couple of days ago you celebrated another milestone. I call every birthday this year a milestone because you made it through 2020.
Yeah, that's right. Listen, they're all milestones, right? And I've had some this year. I've had my 44th anniversary as well. So
nice. There we go. Congratulations.
Yeah. That's the most unheard of thing you ever heard of in Hollywood.
Well, look, congratulations on all the success as we get ready for another season of the Dr. Phil Show starting this Monday. What has the preparation been for this season? I'm sure you have to do the safety protocols with COVID-19, but what's the mind frame? What's the mindset?
Well, Crisco, I'll tell you, it's been so different because we've had 18 years on the same stage, and now we have no audience at all. We have a virtual audience. We're bringing them in virtually, filling the screens with audiences like you've seen in the NBA.
Right.
And some other places. But that's a real change for me because I use the audience a lot to read, to see, am I making my point? Are they getting it? Should I move on or not? So I really miss them. So we put the virtual audience in, and we've gotten that now dialed in to the point that I really do get feedback from them. So it's a big help. But there's a COVID task force that Viacom, CBS, Paramount all got together. And they've been very rigorous, which I have supported, frankly, because I want everybody to be safe.
Right.
I want my staff to be safe, my guests to be safe. I want to be safe myself. And I've got 80% of my staff working from home instead of from the Paramount lot. We can't fly any guests in, but I've been very pleasantly surprised that so many of our guests have said, that's no problem. We'll get ourselves there. I mean, I wouldn't drive in from Pennsylvania to talk to me, but these people were happy to do it. I was very appreciative of it. But we've got so many, the cameramen are wearing masks and gloves. We got one-way walkways, disinfectant everywhere, plexiglass dividers in the control room to keep everybody safe that has to be there to do the show. But we are doing it from the stage instead of from home because I felt like people really needed to get back to a branded experience with the big screens and the graphics and the video packages. I did 35 shows from home last year, but I felt like this year I wanted to be back on that stage and give them what they had been watching for 18 years.
Nice. Well, I want to stay with COVID-19 because just a hot topic right now, especially in this state, is getting the kids back to school. A lot of districts across the country have okayed it. They've cleared it, at least where we're at. And you have the, hey, it's too soon versus the parents that are like, my kid is mentally not well. Like it's not good for them because they're not around their friends. They can only get so much on-screen learning. Once the benchmarks have been met, is it the right thing to make sure that our kids feel good mentally and about themselves?
Well, let me state the obvious first, and then I'll explain what I mean. But it needs to be a very high priority to get our children back in the classroom as soon as we can do it safely. Now, so that's a non-answer, right? Of course, you do it as soon as you can do it safely. But where is the balance between safety and the trade-off? But here's the thing. These kids not being in the classroom is coming at a very high price. Their education is lacking. Parents are not professional educators. Right. And I wouldn't know this math that they're going through, trigonometry, geometry, even third, fourth grade math. I mean, it takes a professional educator to do it right. They've gone to pass fail. And so the academic rigor is not where it should be. And these kids are not going to be competitive with those that came before them that were in the classroom. Parents that are working and trying to teach their kids, it's just very, very difficult. And the number one predictor of whether a child is going to graduate or not is whether they're reading on grade level in the third grade. And if they're not, they're 4 times more likely to not graduate than if they were reading at grade level. So that's a very important benchmark in the 3rd grade. And if it's low socioeconomic standards, where the child is living in poverty, they're 6 times less likely to graduate if they're not reading on grade level. So they're missing development socially, they're falling behind educationally, and the mental, emotional aspects of depression, anxiety, self-esteem, self-worth, all of those things are eroding. So it's coming at a very high price to keep them safe from the virus. And so can they get back in school with social distancing and hygiene and pull it off? As soon as that's possible, it is critically important mentally, emotionally, educationally to get those kids back in the classroom.
Dr. Phil, this season, what number is this? I feel like 19,
Yeah.
so close to the 20-year mark. How does the Dr. Phil show continually evolve? What are you bringing this season that may differ from the past? Are you focusing on more COVID-19? I know last season and the season before, we see more of the catfishing, or where somebody's taking advantage of their parents and trying to get their money from Facebook accounts. And I know I saw on your Twitter that even QAnon is making its way this season. And I think you have to kind of address some of the things that are happening politically between families as well.
You do, and you're quite right. And I really think that we've never been more relevant than we are right now, because people are living in quarantine, and that is a very stressful situation for people. They're living with the fear of this dread disease invading them and their family. That's pressure and stress. They're living with economic problems. So many people have spent their life building a small business. It's just been wiped away, never to come back. Unemployment is at its highest level. We've got social issues being addressed in the streets. There's just all sorts of things right now that are creating discord and upheaval in people's lives. And so I think we've got to address those things. And I don't think we've ever had a steeper hill to climb at Dr. Phil in trying to give people tools and coping strategies to deal with that. So we're going to be talking about all of those things. We're seeing a huge spike in divorce rates. People are in quarantine and finding out, we're not as in love as we thought we were.
Right.
Spend a little too much time with your happy ass. So it's really creating a spike in that. And another thing about these kids, and this is a real serious issue, but mandated reporters for such things as domestic violence, molestation, child abuse, the teachers, the administrators, cafeteria workers, these are all mandated reporters that put their eyes on these kids. And the referrals to Child Protective Services and Department of Child and Family Services are down by like as much as 40 to 60% in some areas. That doesn't mean the abuse is down that much. It just means it's not getting reported because these teachers don't have their eyes on these kids. So these kids are still getting abused. It's just not being reported. And so when all of this breaks loose, that's going to all come cascading forward, and we're going to have to deal with that on the show as well. So we've got a big year ahead and big challenges ahead.
Big year, big election. And one thing that I think is tearing families apart, even friendships. You see people unfriending more people than ever, just strictly for the fact on differences and political views.
We're very polarized. Yeah.
Very polarized. It's like hyper politics at a level that I don't think we've seen or that I can remember. But how do you handle, and by the way, I'm running for mayor here in Phoenix. And one thing that I've been noticing, I'm an independent candidate. I don't affiliate with Republican or Democrat, but being independent, one of my challenges has been, I guess it's cognitive dissonance, to where I can show you different things and I can tell you, but how can we get people to have a real conversation without the yelling, without the arguing, to where everyone can express their viewpoints and still have some validity in the discussion?
Well, that's such a challenge because people suffer from confirmation bias. And confirmation bias is when we selectively pick up on data that supports what we already believe. And the real problem with confirmation bias is not just that we filter out things that don't support what we already believe. It's that if you bring people data, I'm talking about factual, verifiable data that runs counter to what they believe, the end result is it deepens their belief. It doesn't shake their belief. They dig their heels in and they close themselves off even more. What we have to do is people have got to decide, look, I don't have to get people to agree with me. I just want to be heard. It's okay that my friend doesn't agree with me. I want them to hear me. They don't have to agree. I'm willing to hear them. I don't have to agree. But that's when you start to have an active exchange of ideas, where your goal is not that they agree with you, just that they hear you and you're willing to accept that, and then let it settle with them, let it percolate with them. And that's when you have intelligent discourse. Right now, we don't have that. Everybody's so polarized that, as you say, family members are turning on each other. And we're not having the kind of exchange. And when you stop having discussions and you start yelling and then you start getting violent, then all exchange of ideas stops. And that's a very dangerous time. And people say this is the worst it's ever been. Well, they forget about the Civil War. We actually went to war with each other and shot each other. And so it has been worse, but right now it's getting pretty bad in terms of polarization.